Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. So today we're taking a little walk out by the ocean. Seems like the perfect place to talk about some spiritual concepts that may resonate with you. But you ever wonder why such things in life, such as money and energy, are all described with water? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today because I think it's important to understand exactly what that is and why that is. Because understanding that on a deep level is what truly allows you to be able to understand how some of these things work in terms of spirituality, how they work, and really in many ways how to activate them in your life. You see, life is like energy. It flows. Energy flows just like water flows. And as you understand that it flows, it's really no different than how life is. You see, everything is tied to water because energy is like water in essence, especially that universal energy that flows freely through everything around us, through the air, through the universe, and essentially through space, through time, through all things. The illusion is that everything around us is solid. That is the absolute illusion. Why is that the illusion? Because even science is starting to show that through quantum mechanics that everything is energy, and there is more space in between the things that you perceive as solid. There's actually more space in between them than there is solid things. So the illusion is actually that things are solid. Now, part of the reason why this is important is because, when you understand this kind of concept, you start to understand a little bit more about how life works, how things like manifestation work, how things like prayer work. Because really, when you are grateful for all the things around you, and you begin to humble yourself, and you begin to ask with belief, understanding, and gratitude, and then especially when you feel those feelings in terms of already having the things that you think you want, it's amazing how certain things just flow to you. You see, we talk a lot about the belief in lack on this channel, and that lack doesn't really exist. Lack is an illusion. And really lack's an illusion because it's a projection outside of self. And most things on this journey are, when you begin to understand the journey better, are not about the things that are external to you. That's an illusion. It's about the things that are internal to you. You see, as you begin to take the walk, you begin to understand that you are whole and complete. Anything that you desire outside of self, in many cases, is something that you feel like you're missing internal to self. For instance, if you clamor for things like money or love, you're believing that what you have isn't enough and that you are not enough, that you desire more, that you require more in order for you to be happy and fulfilled. But on this journey, I've had this, let's call it blessing or advantage to have everything and then have nothing, and realize that the happiness that you seek inside of you, the happiness that I was always looking for, was inside of me, and nothing external could bring that happiness to me. So all the things external, I began to understand were not about bringing happiness to self. No, in fact, they were about allowing there to be a cherry on top of the sundae, so to speak. It's interesting, and I've heard this concept a lot. A lot of people talk about money and the flow of money and how it's tied to maritime law, and that is part of the reason why money is currency, that it flows, that banks hold money in and direct money, and the spiritual concepts around those things that really, when you start to do the etymology around words and whatnot, you start to understand that much better. You start to understand that there is a tie between money and things like water or energy. And when you understand that, you begin to understand ways in order to allow that money to flow. You see, most people, they believe that you get money and you hoard money. You hold on to it. But the problem with hoarding money is you're saying that the money is what brings happiness and I'm not fulfilled without it. And so what you end up creating is you dam up the money. Well, what happens when you start damming up or hoarding money, money's energy, and it likes to flow. It wants to flow. It desires that flow just like any water does. So what happens is you start to begin to see money leak out here and there, because money's going to seek those weak points and those cracks in order for it to be able to flow again. And you know, it's important to understand this, because it's important to understand that as you begin to understand about finance and learn how to work with finance, you understand that it's not about having money in the bank. It's about having money flow. Money flows to you, money flows away from you, and being grateful for that money and that energy that flows in that manner. I'll give you some examples of that. You know, have you ever wondered why you might be in a position where, let's say you are saving up for something and you're denying everything around you and denying self in order to save more and more and more. What happens is you've put yourself in a position now where you are trying to dam up currency. You're trying to dam up money. And have you ever noticed that that's when, like, your car will need brakes, or something will break on the house, or there'll be an unexpected bill that comes in that you have to pay for? Well, this is a way for the money to flow. This is a way for the money to be released. And you know, a lot of times we take this journey and we don't really truly understand it. We demonize people who have money. We say, oh, they have too much money. But really what's going on is a lot of times they understand how currency works. They understand that the currency must flow. They understand that you know, by allowing it to flow, they can allow it to flow in their benefit. What do I mean by that? Well, instead of hoarding money, they go and they buy assets. And when they buy those assets, then they allow those assets to be used to generate more income. And then as they generate more income, then, you know, like a lot of the financial systems are tied to reduce your tax burden if you're invested in certain assets. So then it reduces your tax burden, which then again increases your flow of currency or of money. You see, these are all spiritual concepts that's important to understand on this journey, especially if things like money is important to you. You see, there does come a point, at least there did for me, where I began to understand it better. But when I began to understand it better, what I truly began to understand was that I didn't need it, that I was whole and complete without it. And I started to understand why. In fact, it just dawned on me today why I am living life the way I live it, and why I don't desire more anymore. Because I have understood that because money is currency, and because anything on your journey can be, in essence, used to trap you. And we'll talk about that in another video, but briefly, that can be used to take away your freedom and put you in a prison, in a self-imposed prison. Anything like that, when you discover yourself to be whole and complete, you generally begin to shy and move away from opportunities for those things to entrap you and enslave you. It's almost like if once you were a slave and then you were free, you would not likely choose to go back to be a slave again. And then when you begin to be grateful and appreciate all the freedom that surrounds you, wow, I'm going to tell you, that is really what changes the entirety of the journey. So, money is energy, life is energy. You are meant to flow with life, and you are meant to allow energy to flow. When you understand those things, then you understand that if money is like energy and energy has to flow, then you begin to understand the concepts of how you bring in more money and lose less because you allow it to flow. There is no rule that says the money has to flow the same amount out that it does in, or vice versa. It just needs to flow. You just need to allow that ability for it to allow the ability for the movement of those things. And all that prayer and manifestation is it's the act of humbling oneself and asking and trusting that the universe will bring you what you are deserve and desire. Now, some people are going to say, well, Anthony, I've been on this path and I've asked for a lot of money. But the question you haven't asked yourself is, if money's coming in and it's not coming in at the amount that you desire, is it because you haven't, in essence, prepared your vessel to receive that money? And I'm going to give you a quick example of that before we sign off today. Statistics show that the majority of people who win the lottery within a few years lose everything that they won, and their life is ruined. Why, you ask? Well, as I've gone on this journey, it's become quite simple as to why. It's because their vessel wasn't prepared to be able to handle that money, and because of that, it brought great ruin to them. So it's very similar to the concept of sometimes the prayer that you are granted is not granting your prayer request. In order to have more, you must be prepared to receive more. And in order to receive more, you must be in a space of gratitude, love, and appreciation for all that you have, and understand that you already have it, and not require it for happiness, and not require it for fulfillment. But what say you? How do you feel about that concept? Do you feel like money and life and energy flows like water? Do you see that comparison? Do you see the similarities in those things? As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am truly grateful. Until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. Hope you have the most amazing day.